Hey everyone and welcome. So today we're diving into something absolutely massive in the tech world, burnout. And look, this isn't just about being a little tired, it's a serious challenge for the whole industry. But here's the most important thing right up front. It is not a personal failure. All right, let's get into it.
Does this sound like your life right now? Just feeling completely wiped out, stuck in that never-ending loop of sprints, stand-ups, and maybe even a side hustle that feels more like a second full-time job. If you're sitting there nodding your head, well, you are in exactly the right place.
And trust me, that feeling, it is so common. The data makes it crystal clear that this isn't just you struggling on your own. It's a massive, industry-wide thing. So let's take a look at the actual numbers.
Yeah, we're calling this an epidemic, and for a very good reason. The scale of this problem is just staggering, and it points right at systemic issues within our work environments, not some lack of grit on your part.
I mean, just look at this number, 83%. Let that sink in for a second. That is the overwhelming majority of software developers saying they are burned out. This isn't some fringe issue anymore. For a lot of folks, it's become the default experience.
So what's really going on here? Well, the data is pretty revealing. The top reasons are all about the environment. We're talking crushing workloads, clunky, inefficient processes, and fuzzy, unclear goals. You notice a theme here? These aren't personal problems. They're organizational ones that need real, systemic fixes.
And the pressure? It is only getting more intense. Recent shifts in the industry have basically just thrown gasoline on the fire. You can see it right here in the data. 65% of engineers have had their responsibilities expand. And get this, a whopping 77% say AI has actually added to their workload, not lightened it. And of course, 38% of leaders are just working longer hours to try and keep up. It's a perfect storm for burnout.
Okay, so that was a lot of bad news. But here is the most important part of this whole conversation. You are not stuck. Burnout is not a life sentence. It is reversible, and even better, it's preventable. Science has actually mapped out some super clear, really effective ways to fight back.
So let's get practical, right? We're about to walk through 5 solutions that are all backed by solid evidence. I want you to think of this as your personal toolkit, packed with strategies you can literally start using today to get back on your feet and build up that resilience for whatever comes next. Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to cover 5 powerful strategies: setting real boundaries, getting some regular exercise in, practicing mindfulness, building up that social support network, and finding ways to get more autonomy in your work. And the best part? Every single one of these is backed by real science.
All right, first up, boundaries. The big idea here from a scientific standpoint is something called psychological detachment. It's just a fancy way of saying your ability to actually truly switch off from work when you're done for the day. See, if we don't detach, our brains kind of stay in this low-level stress mode, which just drains our batteries. True detachment lets everything reset and recharge, which is absolutely critical for your mood, your sleep, and your stress levels.
So how do we actually do this? Here are some simple, practical steps. Go block off time in your calendar. Seriously, do it. Turn off those work notifications on your personal phone. You need that space. And maybe my favorite, create a little shutdown ritual at the end of the day. Could be as simple as closing your laptop and tidying your desk. It just sends a clear signal to your brain, we're done here.
Let's move on to tool number 2, exercise. And right off the bat, let's get one thing straight. We are not talking about training for a marathon here. The research is super clear that you do not need to do these gut-busting, high-intensity workouts to get the benefits.
The science is pretty cool on this. Even moderate activity, like going for a brisk walk, directly cuts down on that feeling of emotional exhaustion, and it helps with that psychological detachment we were just talking about. The minimum effective dose? Get this, just 2 to 3 sessions a week. That is so achievable. Our third solution is mindfulness, and again, the bar to get started is so low. We're not talking about going on some hour-long silent retreat. The data shows that a consistent practice of just 5 minutes a day can have a huge positive impact on your stress levels.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from a major scientific review says it all. Mindfulness isn't just some fluffy wellness trend. It is a clinically proven tool that literally reduces the core symptoms of burnout, that emotional exhaustion and that cynical, detached feeling.
Okay, next up is social support. And this one is so important. You know how burnout kind of makes you want to just pull away from everyone? Well, that's the exact opposite of what your brain actually needs. Connection isn't a luxury. The research shows it's a fundamental biological need if you want to be resilient and recover.
So how do you build that support? You got to be proactive. Put some 15-minute coffee chats on the calendar. Join a Discord or Slack community that's focused on your tech stack. And remember, it's a two-way street. Offer help, and don't be afraid to ask for it. That give and take is what builds those strong connections that can really shield you from stress.
And our fifth and final solution is autonomy. This is a total game changer. It's based on something called the job demand control model, and it's brilliant. Here's the key. High demands at work aren't actually the root of the problem. The really toxic mix is when you have high demands combined with low control. But look what happens when you flip that. When you have high demands but also high control over your work. You don't get burnout, you get engagement.
Okay, so we've covered 5 really powerful tools. But I know what you're thinking. How on earth do I fit all this into my already insane schedule? Well, the key here is integration, not addition. Let's look at a simple way to weave all this together.
This is such a great, practical plan. Just notice how tiny these daily commitments are. 5 minutes of mindfulness in the morning, a 10-minute walk at lunch, and that 5-minute shutdown ritual we talked about. It's these small, consistent habits that really start to compound over time and create massive change without totally overwhelming you.
And really, that is the core message today. You do not need to blow up your entire life to be burnout. The path forward is built on small, sustainable changes, the kind of things you can start doing right now.
If you remember just one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Burnout is a signal that your environment is broken, not that you are. Just shifting your perspective from self-blame to seeing the bigger picture is the first and, honestly, the most important step to recovery.
So here it is one more time, your 5-point recovery plan. Set those boundaries to protect your energy. Move your body to clear your head. Practice mindfulness to dial down the stress. Build connections so you're not alone. And find ways to get more autonomy to feel back in control.
The science couldn't be clearer, and now the tools are right here in your hands. You don't have to do it all at once. Just start somewhere. So I'll leave you with this question. What is the one small, totally manageable step you are going to commit to taking today? Because your well-being is absolutely worth it.